So a little bit different change in music there, Thomas. Usually we have a little bit more smooth, like hip hop sound, but last night we had on the Players Edge podcast, TVG's Rich Perloff, and you'll know why we picked the rock and roll sound when you watch the show. You can head on over to Horse Racing Radar TV. If you haven't gone over there, you can check it out on our YouTube station. While you're there, you know what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and also hit the like button. So please do those two things. If you like what you see last night, any of our shows, Horse Center, and then, of course, today with our picks at Newmarket, which I read, Tom, is considered the headquarters of British racing. And it's a weird track that's been around for damn near 400 years.
Yeah, it's got a little history behind it. And yes, it's a main training center in England. So there are a number of the trainers there, and you do want to take note of that, of course, when you're handicapping, because if they're not shipping or have to bring it from Ireland or whatever, can be some advantage.
Can be some. I didn't think I would find a track that was older than Terry, but we did.
Yeah. Well, Chester's the oldest.
So,
and their last weekend of racing is this week, and that was started in 1535.
History.
They've been around a few years.
Well, let's see if we can add a grain of sand to the history of Newmarket, Thomas, with our picks today. We went with Newmarket instead of Hong Kong because Tom says there's some horses in here that have perhaps some Breeders' Cup aspirations. I was going to say inspirations, but aspirations. So let's see how these races break out. But before we do that, let's talk real quickly. The track is supposed to be good, which is, it's not going to be wet over there, which is positive. And let's also talk about the odd shape of this race, Tom. Here we go. This is what the track looks like. Mostly a lot of straight races here, depending upon where you're going to go and the length. I don't know what the July course does, but it doesn't look like it's going to be involved in anything we're doing today, right?
This is not the July course. This is the Raleigh course. This is the or they put Row as the course. This is a different course than the other one. And as you can see, your mile and a quarter race is a straightaway.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have any of those. But my point being is that is a different. So you got one of those really long ones, then you can be up in the thing. But a lot of the races are just straight.
Just a lot of straight races, so no turns. So let's see if they...
Well, you get the undulation of the course and some other little funky things that go on.
Yeah, it looks like for most races, there's a little bit of undulations right when you get started. Then you run downhill, and then you better be fit because you're going to go uphill then to the finish line. So the first race we're going to cover today is the Juddmonte Royal Lodge Stakes. It is a Group 2. It is 1 mile, and if we go back to our 1 mile chart, you'll see they start here, and then they're going to run through those undulations, go down the hill and up the hill. As we mentioned, they're all straight, Thomas. This one is supposed to start approximately 8:50 a.m. Eastern. And I did something I added a little twist to what we're going to do today, Tom. This is only a 4-horse field, so this one will be going by pretty quick. I don't get to make 4 picks with 4 horses field. I'll just go with 2. I'll be fair. Tom probably has 1.
I did too.
All right. So I put together a little bit of what I called a winning race running style sheet. So this is how I feel like where the horses need to be based upon their history to win. So I think the 1 and the 3, in order to have a shot to win, need to be on the lead. And the 2 and the 4 horse can sit behind them if they go too fast and look to pounce. Tom, in this first race at Newmarket, well, who are your 2 horses?
I took the favorite. Number 2, Flying Honors, is my top choice.
Mm-hmm.
Ran a maiden race at Newmarket, which was average but experience. And that's the way I look at it. The next 2 are much better. It won a novice at Sandown, running on the lead. And it won, by 9.5 lengths. And then it came back and traveled nicely with the leaders at Salisbury and won by 5.5 lengths. So you can understand why it's 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's going to move up, and obviously in company, to Group 1. I think a small fuel will suit this horse nicely because I think it's got some tactical speed, or whatever, because I think there's, as you pointed out, 2 speed horses, and one of them I like, and the other one I'm like, maybe. Okay, well, this is William Buick, Charlie Appleby, as you can see, and this is one that very well does well here. Will be in that Keeneland Juvenile mile and 16th race.
Uh-huh.
And it would be a threat. because it's been winning it's been winning at a distance, not just short ones, and I can see it easily being one of the favorites if it does ship over here.
Uh-huh.
I took number 3, Greenland, as my next choice. Took 4 races for this horse to win, which is kind of uncommon for Aidan O'Brien's type 2-year-olds, but it happens. He won wire to wire last out at Roscommon. He ran dead heat at the Curragh in his first start, ran 5th, and then he made a start at a mile, made the lead, and then he got caught. And then he had one race where just had a lot of problems. Ryan Moore, Aidan O'Brien, you may know that combination.
Heard it before.
Well, and I would if it runs well here, I would not be surprised if he ships him for the Breeders' Cup. I know it's eligible, so we'll see.
Well, we have, as you mentioned, a 1-2 favorite here with Flying Honor, so you got to try to beat it. So the 3-horse and the 4-horse, neither one of them have run a mile yet. Not that they can't handle the distance, particularly since it's straight. But the one that has run a mile and has won, that's not the 1-2 favorite, is Dubai Mile. Last time out, it ran a mile, and it did so on all-weather track. It won that race. So we'll see if it can run again. It did run a 1-mile race also on the turf at Royal Windsor. So 2 for 2, depending upon your track style at the distance. So I'm going to give the 1-horse Dubai Mile a chance to win at 1 mile. 14-1. It is the longest shot on the board. I'm going to put the Flying Honors behind it and hope, probably not going to happen, but get that backdoor exacted to make a few bucks. The 3 and the 4, as I said, haven't gone a mile yet, so we're not 100% sure that they can handle that distance, Tom. So let's try to beat the heavy favorite with one that has taken home a couple at that distance. Race number 2. This one is 6 furlongs on the straightaway track on that straight down the hill undulation. So we're going to start here. Some undulations, go downhill, run uphill to see how that plays out. And then if we take a look at this one, I got a lot more horses in this race. So let's take a look at the race shape of this one. Looks to me like, and again, this is not necessarily where they're going to be on the track. It reflects how they have won in the past. And the E means horses that need to be on the lead. The EP are early pace impressors. So they can, if the pace is too slow, they can go to the front. If the pace is too fast, they can ride right behind. The pressure horses haven't won on the lead, but have chased the leaders around the track and found their ways to the winner's circle. The 8-horse is a pressure closer, meaning it can get close to the front or can sit back in the back and close late. The 9-horse has been a pure closer. And just from a general rule of thumb, the EPs and the PCs are your most versatile because they're not wholly pace dependent, because the E horses got to get to the front. They got to get right fractions. The P horses need the front horses to go too fast so they can go by them. And then the closers, of course, they're completely pace dependent. That's how they have to win, Tom. How do you see this race playing out in terms of early pace?
Well, I am going to take what you're calling a closer, but she's generally been a little closer to the pace. And that's Trillium, the number 9 horse. Mm-hmm. She's got 4 races and 3 wins. I dismissed her first race. She ran second in, and we didn't run the predictor in the other one.
Well, you want to go back and run the predictor? Let's run.
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, it's probably only going to put 1 horse in there because, we could put all 4. It's going to be, at the Flying Honors, of course, gets the winner. Looks like Greenland. Looks like Tom's going to get the exacta cold according to the predictor. All right, let's go ahead and make our predictions for race 2. You were starting out with number 9, Trillium.
Trillium, yeah. She's her next start in a maiden race at Newbury. She won by 4 lengths. Then they put her against the males at Goodwood in a Group 3, and she beat them pretty much very nicely, a mile by a length and a quarter. And in that 5 furlong race, she went 56 and change. That's a 2-year-old. That's fast. Mm-hmm. Then just 13 days ago, she beat the Platinum Queen, who also ran at Goodwood that same day against the Fillies, where she was facing the males. And Platinum Queen, is a very, very good horse. And this was on the soft going at Doncaster. Platinum Queen ran in the Nunthorpe, which is for 2, 3, 4, whatever age you are, races, and it's a mixed race. And she ran second to Highfield Princess, who won the next time out at the Curragh in a Group 1. So she's very good. And the trainer has been interviewed, and the owners want to go to the Breeders' Cup. Guess who? I don't think it matters whether it wins or loses. Unless something really bad happens, we'll definitely see this horse at the Breeders' Cup, and she is very fast. Number 2, Lizu is my next choice. Has 4 starts and 3 wins. Started her career at Bath and won by a 5 furlong race, and then they moved her to Newmarket. She got a win and a second. One was an enlisted race, that win, and then a Group 2, which was with the males, where she ran second. And she went last out. She went at 6 furlongs at Ascot and won by a length, and that was a Group 3. Interesting change here is the jockey. William Buick was on one of the other horses in this race. He switched, which is a big long shot, and he switched to this horse. I wonder why.
Well, probably the money. Always follow the money, Thomas.
Absolutely. And finally, we're going to take number 7, Swinging Along. It's won the last 2 races. It won at York in a Group 2 at 6 furlongs by a neck, and it went off at 25-1. Well, you're not going to get 25-1. Novice winner. It was a 6-length winner, also at 6 furlongs. She's faced Trillium and lost by 5 3/4 lengths in her 2. One of them was in a maiden race that Trillium beat her. And I think she's good for the money. I don't think she's good enough to win.
Not good enough to win. Just a quick note, this one will start about 9:25 a.m. Eastern. I am going to start with Meditate as my top choice here, Tom. It's run 5 times on the turf. Won 4 of them, finished second by 2 3/4 lengths. Interesting thing is the horse on a good track, 1, 2, 3 wins. And the only time the horse did not finish in the money last time out at the Curragh on a soft track. So, and it was the even money favorite in that Grade 1 race. So I just think maybe
and the horse I picked on top was the one that won.
Yeah, well, let's see.
She's only got 1. She had a maiden win, but she looked very good. So I don't know going forward where that horse will end up. But Mediate, I wouldn't be surprised if she does well here. Breeders' Cup.
I'm also going to go with Trillium as my second choice. A little bit chalky, I know, but these 2 horses do look like the best 2 horses in the race. As you mentioned, Trillium 4 times out, 3 wins and a second. Got a lot of good races in it. The second race off a layoff was probably better than the first one after the debut. So I expect Trillium coming off of that nose win to go ahead and improve in race number 2 off the bench. I like the same horse you do for third place, Tom. Swing Along. Horse has run at the distance 3 times. Has a couple of wins in that. And it does to me look like a horse that's on the improve, coming off a Group 2 win by a neck. So I do like to see. I also see what I look in here too is I saw that it has a nice fraction improvement last time out at York. So I like to see that as well. And then finally, I'm going to go with the 8 horse as my last choice. That is Treasure Trove. Trevor Trove has run on the turf 8 times, 3 wins, a second and 3/3. Been at the distance just 1 time, managed to take home the winning check. This horse looks to me is in very good form right now. It's run the last 3 races, won 2 of them, and the third one back was second by a head. So a horse that's in top form, probably going to get a little bit of a price on it. And when you look at the pace setup, it's one that should be the lone pressure closer in the field. Again, if you look at the race shape here, that 8 horse for me, the lone pressure closer. So if all these guys in the front are blazing and the 8 horse gets a nice trip, can run by some of them at the end. So that's when you see a lone PC horse with a lot of other speed up in front of it, it's one that you want to try to find a reason for it to make its way into the money. Before we move on to the next race, Tom, let's talk a little bit about baseball. You got on a Brewer shirt there. Tell us a little bit about that Brewer shirt, Tom.
It's one of their promotion nights shirts that you buy a seat and you get a shirt.
Mm.
And I always like something a little silly, and this is right up in that category for something from the blast from the past.
Yes, from the 1990s. Tom's channeling his inner MC Hammer right now. So if you head on over to the picks by the professor, sticking in the baseball theme, tonight his parlay of the day is the Toronto Blue Jays by more than 1.5 runs to defeat their counterparts today. I'm not sure who they're playing today. And then coupling that up with the game going over 4.5 runs. If you do those two things on DraftKings, you have even money bet 100, get 100 if it wins. So far, the parlay of the day, which hitting parlays is tough because that means you got to win both. 9 times he's got both right. So that's 18 picks. 7 times he didn't get it. Still up 2.9 units, up 18% ROI. There's, again, a link for the picks for the professor in the description below on Facebook and on YouTube. While you're at both, please subscribe if you haven't. Thumbs up. Help us with the Google and Facebook algorithms. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram as well. At Horse Race, the number 2 day. You see it in the scroll bar below. All right, so race number 3, Tom.
Predictor.
Oh, yes. What is wrong with me today, Thomas?
Well,
I'm usually sleepy today.
Before, I'm surprised you're missing it.
Yes, because this is my favorite thing. Here we go. Boom. Trillium is your winner. Mediate going to be just a nose behind him. And it looks like a pretty close call between Swing Along and Mauge. So Thomas looking like he's sitting on an ice cold trifecta after hitting the ice cold perfecta predictor exacta in race number 1. See if Tom can keep the hot streak up with the predictor. In race 3 is another 6 furlong race on the straightaway course, as we mentioned. Start down here, run straight ahead through some undulations downhill, then you come back up the hill. Race number 3 is expected to start at roughly 10 a.m. Eastern. Oh, right on the dot, 10 a.m. Eastern. So set your clocks to that. And again, if we look at how you have to win, where you got to be on the track shape, here you see again the 8 horse being one that I think can get to the lead and win, whereas the 1 and the 3 have a little bit more flexibility. They can sit right behind the 8s, or if the things go too fast, can take charge. The 4, 5, 6, and 7 are a little bit more pace dependent. The 2, again, being versatile as a pressure closer horse, having the ability to move forward if the pace is too slow and be patient if the pace is too fast. Tom, who do you think is going to be the fastest to the finish line?
I took number 8. Zoology is my top choice, as it's 1 for 1.
Mm-hmm.
Maiden race at Yarmouth, and it did it at 6 furlongs. He won by 4 lengths. He went wire to wire, and he actually increased his tempo at the 3 furlong mark and kept clear on the 2 furlong mark, just kept going. And the comment line was impressive, and I think so too. The time was good, and it was over the good to soft going, so maybe a little firmer course. This is going to be a very interesting horse. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's more experienced 2-year-olds in this field, but I always like those ones that look like they could be something special. And this
a little late developer,
right up there. Yeah, I think this one could be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, Persian Force is my next choice. 6 races, 3 wins, 3 seconds. Horse is losing to Black Bread, Little Big Bear, and Bradsell. Bradsell got injured, so he's out, but the other 2 are Aiden O'Brien's, and they are good.
Mm-hmm.
Won a Group 2 race at 6 furlongs. Then in the money record, I can't leave him off my ticket. He's been very consistent. And finally, I'm going to take the one that I think is a really weird horse, and that's Marshman. He started there with a maiden race and had issues at the start and ran. They made a comment of green. Guess what? They made a comment in his thirst race.
Green,
but he won by 8.5 lengths.
Mm.
One of the comments I said he got lazy with no company. That's possible, but I don't know with a 2-year-old. And then the second out won a Group 2 by a length and quarter. And again, he ran green, and he was wandering around in the final furlong. Jockey was questioned by the stewards, and he It basically said in the final furlong, he hung both ways. And so is this a good horse with bad habits? Or is this a horse that needs to mature? I'm going to go with the latter right now. I don't see this one as a front runner, but I do see it as the favorite. But I think this is a pretty wide open race in terms of betting. That's probably, and I just don't know what to expect out of this horse, but I got to put it in there.
So I'm going to start with Blackbeard, the one horse in here. If it runs those last two races where it ran at Chantilly or Deauville, those fractions at 6 furlongs, 108, 109, and change, that's fast. It's going to be hard to beat that horse if it can run those fractions. Been at the distance 5 times, won 3 of them with a second. Has done very well on any track surface, but mostly run on good so far. I like Persian Force as the next horse. Again, just looking at the times, this horse times are getting better. And when you compare it to, and I know you mentioned that the 2 horse, which is my next pick, Marshman, when you compare those 6 furlong times between Persian Force and Marshman, the Persian Force looks to me like it's the faster of the 2 horses. So I'm going to trust that. So a little bit more experience, been chasing around some better horses too and performing exceptionally well. And then Zoology is my 4th pick, Thomas. Broke in against some cheap company, I think, at one of the lower level tracks because it's not one I recognize. I might be wrong about that. So the people at Great Yarmouth, if you feel like I'm disrespecting you, it's really actually a lack of knowledge or ignorance. But since we haven't seen the name before, I'm suspecting it's not a tier 1 track in England. But you just don't know what you got with that horse, with that impressive win. Obviously, the connections think they have a good horse. Otherwise, you wouldn't see it here. So I'm going to give it a shot because you just don't know the upside. So that's why I picked Zoology at the 4th pick. It's really a tough call between that and the $1 million horse, Antarctic, right above it in horse number 7. What were your thoughts about that Antarctic, that big priced horse? Never run out of the money, and they certainly spent a lot of money on it.
Yeah, I just think right now, I think Aiden O'Brien's got better other 2-year-olds that are better.
Yeah, well,
I mean, again, that's one. Even if it doesn't do so well, you could see that one at the Breeders' Cup too, because of the money involved.
And they got to get that money back somehow, some way, right?
Well, I mean, that's part of it. But part of it is just there is a lot of hubris and prestige that these owners want, and certainly Aiden O'Brien has done okay at the Breeders' Cup. Had more than a few winners, along with Ryan Moore. So, yeah, this is I think a really good betting race, and there are a number of 2-year-olds that look good and couldn't really take a step forward and improve a lot, and there are a couple of them that could regress.
All right, well, let's see what the predictor says. I didn't forget this time, almost did, Tom, but I had time to think of it when we were going through there. Bang! Woo! Looks like it's going to be a photo finish between Marshman, Blackbeard. You got Persian Force probably being 3rd in there. So it looks like Tom's run at the Exacta, Ice Cold, and Trifecta has come to a close after 2 races. All right, let's move ahead to race number 4. This one is the Cambridgeshire Handicap. This one's a mile and a furlong. So we go back to here for a mile and a furlong. Is still straight away.
Yeah,
they haven't quite made it to that turn yet. So I'd like to see a race come on down this really tight turn because I got to imagine that has a little bit of an impact on the outcome. This one's supposed to start at about 10:40 a.m. Eastern. And all I can say is good luck because this one has like 30 horses in it or something?
29 was the last time I looked at it. So, yeah, there's a few horses.
So looking at this race in terms of the winning race style needed to win, a lot of these horses, you got a few that get to the front, the 5, the 13, and the 20. I kind of looked at all of them as sort of cheapish speed, high odds. I threw them all out. Looking for something in the EP column there. You absolutely, whether you like the 4 or not, you have to have the 4 in your picks because you can see it is a pressure closer that's standing all by itself. Probably one of the more quality horses in the field. you're going to have a blob of horses in the middle, as you can see that long stretch down the P, and a whole host of closers too. So this race, to me, you want to talk about a betting race, Thomas. This is an absolute bettor's dream, because you're going to have an opportunity to catch some prices in here. You're going to have an opportunity the race shape sets up where if you can really analyze it, you can probably pick some nice horses out. So 29 horses, Tom. I'm curious to hear who your three are.
I'm going to start with number 15. Savvy Victory is my top choice. Won last time out at Goodwood in a Class 2, but it was restricted to for 3-year-olds. Then it ran a second versus older horses at Doncaster, but it was a 4-horse field, so nothing like this one. Prior races, it was in a Group 2 and a listed race. Again, these were in a Group 3, and these were restricted to 3-year-olds. Of course, it gets some weight, as you can see, from the older horses. And of course, being a handicap, that weight becomes played in, because there's one horse in here that's got 10. So distance is fine, repeat. But Ryan Moore picked up the mount, and that's got to help.
Mm-hmm.
Number 11, Bell Rock is my next choice. He had a great effort at Doncaster last out. He made the lead and just got headed at the final furlong and hung a little left, but he still had enough left to finish third. That was a really good race, considering this is a horse that hasn't won since 2021. He's tried Group 3 company, listed company, Class 3 companies, had some success, but no wins. The trainer is using that angle of weight because they're getting a lot of weight off.
Mm-hmm.
And with its front-running style, I think that can only help. And going to use an apprentice rider and get a little more weight off. I think that's not a bad move, especially off that last race.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, I'm going to take number 22, Carolus Magnus. 12 starts, has 2 wins, 2 seconds, and 5 thirds. Well, now you kind of get the idea why I like it. It likes to run the money.
Mm-hmm.
It's been in a handicapping level, basically, at the Class 2 and Class 3 levels. It's been at anywhere between 7.5 furlongs and 9 furlongs. So this fits right in its wheelhouse. But it hasn't won since September of 2021. The distance is fine. That 9 out of 12 times in the money makes me have to use the horse, and you're going to get some odds.
Yes, at 50 to 1, you're definitely get some odds. Opened up at 40 to 1, so those odds are even moving more, into your favor, depending upon how you look at it. I'm going to start off with the 4-horse, Tom. I kind of told the story as to why. I didn't even know what the odds were. It's 5 to 1 morning line right now. But in a race like this with so many horses, you have to find something that has a tactical advantage. And it looks to me like the 4 has the biggest tactical advantage, because the early speed, a lot of it's cheap, probably going to fade. You got a whole bunch of horses in the middle there that are going to chase. I think the 4-horse should just get a trip that it's very, very comfortable with. So that's why I went with Mujtaba, since I am the official pronunciator of the show. That is now pronounced Mujtaba. The next one up on me is number 18. Last night we had on the Players Edge podcast, Rich Perloff. And I think last time we had him on, we did like this because it was by the NCAA basketball tournament. So we did like a little NCAA basketball thing of guitarist, because he likes rock guitarists. And if I remember correctly, Jimi Hendrix. Last night I thought it was Eddie Van Halen, but I think he settled on Jimi Hendrix. So I consider that an omen. But I also feel like Jimi Hendrix in this field of the closers, where there could be pretty much a lot of, I wouldn't say fast pace, but a lot of horses that are hustling to be closer to the front than the back. I think that'll open up the door for Jimi Hendrix to pass a whole ton of tiring legs late. So I'm going to go with Jimmy. Plus, he's 1 for 1 at Newmarket, so he's got to run over that course. The next horse up for me is number 10. That is Protagonist. Protagonist is one of those horses that's going to be closer to the front. And I think of the horses that are in that EP column, again, if we look over here, looking for horses in these big races that have a tactical advantage, the 10 horse is in that early pace lineup. So It's one that I think has a lot of versatility, can get a pace that it's looking for. Definitely going to be ahead of a lot of that big blump of horses, and the 3 in front of it that identify as speed horses that have won on the lead. I don't think any of them is going to be able to maintain with a whole pack chasing behind them. So that should open it up nicely for Protagonist. And then finally, my last pick of the day at this big ass field is number 26, Night of Luxury. And if he wins, you might be able to have a Night of Luxury. But the reason I like Night of Luxury, if I recall correctly, as I page down, I think he's 2 for 2 on the Newmarket track. Let's just make sure that that is correct. Newmarket, Night of Luxury, 1 for 1, on the Newmarket track. Been out at turf 5 times with 3 wins. So it's an all or nothing horse. Maybe last time out, a little bit off more than he could chew, but I'm tossing that last race out because it was on a soft track. If you look back at the good race efforts on a good track, the last 2 he won sharply. So I'm going to go with Night of Luxury, who does have a win over the Newmarket course on a good surface. Let's see what the predictor says, Tom, lest I forget, as we have to page up 1,000 miles because of all of these horses in here.
Yeah, you got a few of them.
Mm-hmm. And this one's going to be close. And at the wire, it is Bellrock. Thomas's Bellrock taking the winner there. Electrical Storm, a horse that neither one of us have. Loosander is in there. So it looks like Rich is going to be out in the cold in this race, Tom.
Well, but look at those odds right now.
Well, hopefully, if you play the predictor, I hope it pays today for you.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a real betting race, and you can figure it out. I give you all the credit because I got my first cut was 12 horses. And then I just decided I felt like throwing a dart and just try to find something that has some form and may like the track and then try to find some long shots because they're going to be there.
Well, you're going to say throw some darts. We're not even going to bother with the pace setup in the next race because
it's impossible to do.
Yes, because you have, I think, half the field or maybe more than half the field or close to half the field is first-time starters. This is which can be interesting on the predictor here. This one is a 7 furlong race, which is kind of an interesting distance for me when you think about a lot of horses debuting here at 7 furlongs. It's a bit of a interesting ask. This one's going to start at about 11:15 p.m. Eastern, so right after kickoff, before kick AM. Yes, AM. That's right. It's going to kick off a little bit right before college football gets started, right while game day is going on, and Lee Corso's making an ass out of himself, but okay. They're going to start here at 7 furlongs, find their way down to the finish line here in this straight course. Again, no need for we're going to need the predictor, but no need for a pace setup because we don't know what half of these horses are going to do. Tom, did you throw darts? Did you pull cards? Did you take numbers out of a hat?
7 furlongs. It's got to be interesting at any time. And we don't get the advantage of workouts, so we have to use some of who's training the horse, and also take a look at the breeding and maybe give you a little hint here and there of what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I took number 3, Angel Deluxe. Deluxe is my top choice. She's a half sister to Mystery Angel, who's a group placed horse and a listed winner. And she won her first time out. The sires produced a number of good runners, and he won first time out. The mare produced 2 foals. They both have won, and they've won on the all-weather and the turf.
Mm-hmm.
Trainer has sent out 42 2-year-olds, and he has 11 wins with different horses. So not too bad.
Oh, that works.
My main concern with this horse is the distance, and that it may be too short. The offspring seem to be winning at longer distances. But I think this is an interesting place to debut the horse, and they must think they've got something. And the odds are decent. My next choice is partially on the name and partially because I liked that fact that it's been out of a decent sprinter.
Mm-hmm.
This one is Fools and Horses, number 6.
So which one are you?
I definitely feel like a fool a lot of times when I pick some of these horses.
Mm-hmm.
But sire was a sprinter, Group 1 winner. Offspring have done excellently. Mare never won, but she's got 2 foals and one was a winner. and he's been at the handicap, and he placed in the group races. Interesting enough, he is a 5 furlong specialist. This is another one that, where my other two choices probably may want more distance. This one, I think 7 may be beyond its capabilities, but getting good odds, and it's the offspring have done okay, so why not?
Mm-hmm.
And my final one is going to be number 5, Edith Rigby. This one is trained by the Gosdens, and going to use an apprentice rider on this horse. His 2-year-old rate is good. He's winning at a 22% rate, and he's got 64 runs, and they got 14 wins and 15 placings. So that's 12 horses. Different horses have won from 31 starters. And actually, he's on the all weather. He's doing better with his 2-year-olds and a 29% hit rate. So he's sending fit horses out.
Mm-hmm.
Sire was an excellent sprinter, placing some groups races, and he's produced 32 group winners all over the world. So gives you some idea. And they've won at all distances. The mare never raced. This is her first foal, but she's by Seed the Stars, who is very, very top class and has produced a lot of horses. The jockey I also looked up, and the last 14 days, he's got 7 wins from 39 runs. So that's a hit rate of 18%.
That'll work.
So, and he rides a lot for the Gosdens. So they must like something with him, because they're entrusted in this horse in his hands.
All right, so here comes my dartboard plays, Thomas. I'm going to start off with number 13. Scratched. Never mind. 13's not in my picks. All right, well, now I'm down to 3 picks like you, so that's fine too. I was going to say that one's a baby of Frankel, and McCulloch is one of his brothers. So keep an eye on that horse when it comes out later on, because McCulloch has been kicking some butt.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I'm going to go with number 11 then.
It's got to be a valuable horse.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with number 11 as my first pick then. That one is Rowan. I think that's its name. I don't know. German horse. Daddy, I forget the daddy's name is Intello, I think. Yes, ran 9 times. 6 of those were wins. 3 of them were third, so never out of the money. And a lot of those races were group races as well. So Group 1, Group 3, Group 1, constantly performing exceptionally well. So maybe the baby here at 11-1 is going to do all right. My next pick in this race where my top pick got scratched is number 8, which is Lady Rascal. This one is 12-1. And before I move on, one of the things I like to do in these races where you have a bunch of first-time starters and a bunch of experienced horses, if you watch the morning show with Tom and Terry and I, a lot of times when we talk about these maiden races, I've learned to put them into 2 buckets. Put them either in the experienced horses all in one bucket, all the first-time starters in the other bucket. And you start with the experienced horses and see, okay, is there 1 or 2 in here that have been really close, maybe coming into form and ready to go? I really didn't feel like that was the case here. So I went ahead and looked into the inexperienced, the first-time starter bucket. So Lady Rascal is my second choice. Its Papa, Nathaniel, also ran 11 times. 4 wins, 5 seconds, and a third. A lot of them were group races as well, especially late in its career. Winner of over $2.3 million. I think that horse has a shot to do pretty well. And then finally, I do have to put one of the experienced horses in there just in case I make a mistake. And this was the William Buick horse, Vermilion. And what I liked about Vermilion is the horse gone out twice, didn't win either one of them, did finish third, I believe, in the last one. But the bettors have backed that horse every single time out. So he finished actually third in both races. So it does look like he improved a little bit in the second start, but not a whole lot. So maybe the third race for a horse that's gone 3-3 is the charm. But I do like the fact, again, that the folks have put the money on the horse both races in a row, suggesting to me that it's a quality horse that just not found its stride yet. Let's see if the predictor can pick which horse will have the best stride. So Edith Rigby, Thomas's horse, coming home first, followed by Amazing. And then My Lady Rascal's right there. Your Angel de Cruz, My Ruin. So, Tom, it doesn't look like we're all that far off between you and me, according to the predictor, for a bunch of 2-year-olds who have never raced before.
And again, go look at those odds. There are some very attractive horses, numbers in there. So hopefully you figure it out and put your combinations together. You may have something very nice. But again, then you're dealing with 2-year-olds and anything can happen.
So last week we did Australia. Did you watch those races, Tom?
I watched the first group of races, the first couple.
Mm-hmm.
And then because the channel I was watching flips between tracks. So I was watching, I started with Rose Hill and then Caulfield. And, so we were moving around to different tracks. So I was looking at the conditions and they sucked.
I mean, it was... I think for the first race that we did, you couldn't even see the horses through the rain, which was crazy. And but then it got better after that. But the track absolutely downgraded to a heavy track and kind of changed some of the outcomes of the races. So next week for Foreign Friday is going to be a pretty huge week, Tom, right? What are we going to cover?
We're heading to France.
Technology provided, of course.
Paris Longchamp. And this is our weekend next weekend, so the biggest race in Europe, and I can tell you it's going to be more than just a half-baked field. There's a stellar bunch. Alpinista will be going for win number 7 in a row, and beyond that there's some 3-year-olds that look good. The German horse is back to defend his title, and there may be another German horse in there. The Japanese are in. Just no American horses that I'm aware of.
Well, nonetheless, it'll be a lot of fun to cover the biggest race in Europe. So make sure you're back next Friday to make sure you don't miss it. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell. So when we go live, you are notified. We appreciate all of the likes. The more, the better, because the higher up we go in the algorithms. Later on tonight, if you follow NFL, myself, Sean, and Jared will be back. Cover all of our picks. I'm a little bit of a hot streak. I don't want to jinx myself, but I won 6 games in a row in the NFL, including the over last night in the Cleveland game against Pittsburgh. Tonight we'll have the full slate of roster for games on Sunday. Tomorrow, Eddie C, and Chris P will get together for spot plays. They're going to cover the big races at Belmont at Big A, or otherwise known as Aqueduct. So make sure you tune in for that, for their pace charts. It's always fun to hear their insights between Eddie and Chris. Monday, Terry and I are going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to start with Finger Lakes for our track of the day on Monday, because they have a pair $100,000 stakes races. On Tuesday, we'll flip it back over to Parks. Wednesday, Charles and I will cover Churchill Downs, and on Thursday, we'll be back for more Belmont at the Big A. Again, Tom and I will be back for the ARC next Friday. All of our Horse Center shows at 8 o'clock Eastern next week, hosted by the irreplaceable Jamie Martinez and the even more irreplaceable Swiss Army Sean. So got a lot going on. So make sure you check all of that out. Any final thoughts before we get up and out of here today, Tom?
Well, there are a couple of races in here that are Breeders' Cup to watch horses, because you're definitely going to see a couple of them come out and race at Keeneland. So keep appraised to that, just not the winners. Some of those ones a little farther behind may just be a key race or whatever prep for a good run at the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, Keeneland, absolutely, for sure. So no matter what it is you do, whether you're going to bet tomorrow morning, later on today, of course, today, the free track over at Guaranteed Tip Sheet. If you head over to Guaranteed Tip Sheet, there's a link down below. This is for Friday's free track is Golden Gate Fields. Head on over to Guaranteed Tip Sheet every day. There's a link in the description. Again, you'll see there's a free track every day, along with every single major U.S. thoroughbred and quarter horse cards, handicapping every single horse, ranking our top 6 picks. No matter what you're doing today, tomorrow, football, baseball, horse racing on this side, horse racing over at a track that's damn near 400 years old. We hope all of it ends up in the
winner's circle.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today, and have a fantastic weekend.